Hi, welcome to another training movie for Canto Roboflow. I'm building this for Cumulus 10, but this workflow works just as well in Cumulus 9.2. The purpose of this workflow is to catalog new files that are dropped in a drop folder. So I created a folder where I will drop files. The additional catch or functionality is that if the file already exists, it should not be cataloged as a new file, but checked in as a new version of the original file. So I prepared a catalog called catalog with vault, and I made sure to enable a vault on it. Also, I set it to always. You can always set it also as set in asset handling set, but that would require some extra settings in the asset handling set to move to central location. Here in the standard asset handling set, I made sure that default asset store is enabled. So whenever I would now catalog a file manually, here standard, the file is being cataloged, and if I look at the asset reference, I can see that the file is in the vault. So I delete record and asset, so I know that my catalog is prepared. So let's go to the workflow. I'm going to create a new workflow, and the type of workflow I need to choose is what we call a Hotfolder workflow. It needs to look in a folder for files. So I'm saying Hotfolder catalog or check into vault. It's processing newly dropped files in a drop folder, in a hot folder, like this. And you see it's a hot folder template workflow. The interval for now, I'm going to set it to -2, so it only runs when I launch it manually. In real life, you would set it to, for instance, every 30 seconds or every minute, but this is for testing purposes. Then we are going to have some parameters to set up. The hot folder workflow out of the box just looks for files, and for every file found launches the action script. At the end, then it deletes the file. So all the action that needs to happen needs to be added to the action script. So first things first, we're going to select a hot folder, a folder where the files are dropped. So I prepared a drop folder, so that's the folder I'm going to use. You could set a filter for not processing unwanted formats or sidecars. You can have also in this workflow notification for new files coming in, but we're not going to do that. Good. Files are dropped in, so the first thing we need to do is open a Cumulus catalog. So I'm going for conditional, looking for Cumulus catalog, and I'm going to open the catalog. So here's open catalog. What catalog am I going to open? Well, I can select the catalog here, catalog, and just like that. Whenever I open a catalog, my automatic logic or safety catch is that I'm going to close it immediately. Why? Well, to make sure that no catalogs stay open. In my script, you always need to make sure that you open and close your catalog. So I close it immediately. The next instruction is that I'm going to do a search. I need the file name of the current file that is offered to the workflow, and I need to search for this file name if this already exists. So we can do it like this. I can say new. I need first from the current file, I need some information about the file. So store part of file as text. Which file? Well, the workflow knows that it has a hot file, the current file that is being processed. If there's 100 files dropped, it's the first file, and in the next loop it will be the second file, etc., etc. Type of action is store file name. You can do without extension, etc., etc. In this case, we're looking for the exact file name, so I call this file name. I'm saying store part of file name, like that. Now that I got the file name, I can perform the query. So let's have a look in the Cumulus catalog instruction set actions. There should be find records instruction. What do I have? I have my catalog and then the query. What query are we going to use? Well, here I'm going to say I want to search for record name, or I want to search for asset name. But record name is safer because if you have a PDF that was split up in multiple pages records, then if you look for asset name, the asset name, it will find all those records. You don't want to find all those records. You want to find that one record that has the record name equals to the file name, not the other ones that says page 1 of or something. So I'm saying here record name, and then I need to pick up a stored value. And so the result of that previous instruction here, store part of file, was stored under the tag file name. So I can here start typing the instruction, but if I don't know the instruction, I just type 2 hashes slowly, and it will pop up and it will tell you what variables are available in this workflow. Stored elements. Every stored element has is stored with a tag, a label, and so you can call it using that tag. So don't forget, close the query. Then records found. This means that the output variable of this find is an integer and a string that stores the count of how many records were found. So if the records were found, then we need to check in the file. If the records were not found, then we don't. So we will catalog the file in that case. So what we're doing is say new, and we're going to test. I'm going to test if the result I got, test text, contains 1, or if it contains 0, I could test that as well. So then I'm going to say, okay, I want to test this variable, and I want to say test equals 0 or 1. If I say 1, but I'm going to say 0. So test if record was not found. Why is this important? Well, if the record is not found, we're going to catalog the file. So I'm opening this and I'm saying new, and I go to Cumulus catalog, I go to catalog file, and I go to Hotfolder, so my catalog. I use the standard asset handling set that I created. If you're using permissions, you need to make sure you have a valid permission, and then the output variable is my record that he has just created, so I'm calling it new record. And it's always smart to have your comments say a little bit more than just the initial text, because that way you can make it a little bit more readable. In this case, it might also be a good idea to add a little extra information to the log saying that this file was cataloged as new. Write text to log, and then we're going to say file cataloged as new. Since our catalog was defined as having a vault always, it's going to catalog the file. If you say it set as set in handling set, then you need to set it in your asset handling set that it moves it to the vault. You need to use an asset handling set that moves the file to the vault. So we did the if test, and in case of a new record, then we catalog it, a new file. And now we're going to say in the other case, else, test else, and else of what? If then else, else of this if test. In that case, we're going to process the record that we found. So I'm going to go to catalog I'm going to go to the catalog action, so catalog action, and in the catalog action I'm going to process the files of that are in this collection, in this search result. So which catalog? This catalog. And how am I going to call it? Well, by default in the workflow traditionally records are called hot, but I can also say existing record. You see, then every record of this loop will be called existing record. Good. Now, new instruction. Now what we're going to do is we now have a record, and we can check in a file. I have to check if the check-in is under record or file. I think it's going to be under Cumulus file because we're doing something with a file, and there it is. So I can say check-in. So I say I want the existing record, and then which file? The hot file. Again, here the asset handling set, you can select it, so no need to type it. I can select for which catalog we're doing this, because asset handling sets can be related to that. And then check-in comment, new version checked in by Roboflow. See, check-in file. And again, we can add a line to the log saying notification write text to log, and it can say file was checked in, just like that. So this is how simple a workflow can be. So let's do a quick test. I'm going to drop files in our drop folder. There we go. And we're going to start the workflow. Here we go. And if we look at we can see that there's the files coming in, and if we look here, we see that they're nicely in the vault. So imagine that now I do on one of my test files, I've prepared a correction. So to make it obvious, I made some ridiculous text correction in the image of this particular asset. So I'm now going to copy and paste this in my drop folder. Just in a moment I will also show you the log of what he told me. So now I'm dropping a file in with the same file name. Nothing happens yet because the workflow if I say refresh, you will see is done. It's waiting on demand. In the normal situation, you could run this on an interval that it automatically checks the folder every 30 seconds, but I just set it now to run on demand because I wanted to be able to give you the time to say, okay, it finds a file and then it says, okay, I catalog this as new, and it finds new file, and it was cataloged as new, and it was cataloged as new. Okay, so now I can say start. It's now going to pick up that other file that I just dropped in, and if we do a refresh and we show log, what happened here is it failed to check in. Why did it fail to check in? Well, I did not prepare my catalog properly for this particular action. In the catalog, you need to have specific fields like checkout location, etc. So there you can say add field modules, and I think if we look at asset version control and tracking, then this should be fine. Okay, and okay, so let's redo this. You see that you need to prepare everything perfectly in order for it to work. So I'm going to drop my file and I'm going to run the workflow again. Now careful, if you add fields to catalog, Roboflow might have it cached. In this case not, because the workflow is not running, so it should be fine. But there are cases where new fields are not immediately spotted by Roboflow, so in that case you should you should stop Roboflow and start it again. Here you can see that it finds the file and it says I checked it in. So if we check now in Cumulus, show version history, it has two versions. It has this version and that version. So it now has a new version checked in by Roboflow. So that's how you can work with the vault in Cumulus. It nicely checks in your file. Okay, so this was another simple example of how you can work with Roboflow. There's a lot of other things that you could improve in this workflow, but this is basically it. You can add some tests in here to make sure that the file was really cataloged, etc., etc. So that's another thing, but in this example we're just focused on cataloging the new file or checking it in. So thank you for joining, and see you in another movie.